I am God, and there is no other God beside me. That sentence appears in the Apocryphon of John, one of the Gnostic texts discovered in Nag Hammadi in 1945. But here is what most people do not realize. In that text, those words are not spoken by the Supreme God. They are spoken by the Demiurge, the creator of the material world, the architect of this reality, the God who demands worship. And according to the ancient Gnostics, that declaration is not truth. It is ignorance. For centuries, this idea was labeled heresy, dangerous, blasphemous, suppressed. But it was not invented by modern conspiracy thinkers. It was written by early Christian mystics, men and women who studied the teachings of Jesus deeply and arrived at a radical conclusion. The God who created the visible world is not the ultimate source. He is a lesser being, ignorant, convinced he is the only God because he does not know anything beyond himself. In Gnostic texts, he is called Yaldabaoth, also Saklas, also Samael, the blind God. Blind not because he cannot see, but because he does not know that he is limited. And this is where the story becomes unsettling. If the creator of the material world is not the supreme God, then what does it mean to worship the creator? Who are you actually praying to? Most people never ask that question. They pray, they hope, they fear, they obey. But the Gnostics noticed something disturbing. The God of the Old Testament is jealous. He demands exclusive worship. He punishes, he threatens, he requires absolute obedience. In the Apocryphon of John, the Demiurge declares, I am a jealous God. The exact same phrase appears in the book of Exodus. But the Gnostics did not interpret that as divine virtue. They saw it as a clue, because the supreme source, according to them, does not need worship. It does not demand submission. It does not punish questioning. It does not rage when doubted. The true God is fullness, silence, emanation, presence. It has no need for validation. So the question becomes uncomfortable. Why does the Creator demand so much? Why does he need recognition? Why is so much of religious structure built on fear, guilt, and obedience? The Gnostics did not reject Jesus. In fact, they saw him as a revealer. But they believed Jesus came to reveal something different from what later institutions taught. In the Gospel of Thomas, Jesus says, "The kingdom is inside of you, and it is outside of you." That does not sound like a command to obey an external authority. It sounds like an invitation to perceive directly. According to Gnostic interpretation, Jesus did not come to reinforce the system. He came to expose it. He did not come to save you from moral failure. He came to awaken you from cosmic misunderstanding. And that misunderstanding was not about sin. It was about identity. In the Gnostic myth, Sophia, divine wisdom, emanates from the source. Through an imbalance, something incomplete emerges. From that disturbance arises the Demiurge. He creates the material cosmos, but he does so without full knowledge. He creates from separation, from limitation, from cosmic ego. And then he proclaims, "There is no other God beside me." That is not omniscience. That is isolation, mistaking itself for totality. And here is where the myth becomes psychological. Because this is not only about the cosmos, it is about consciousness. How often does the mind say, "I know, I am right. There is nothing beyond this"? The Demiurge is not only a mythic figure, he is a principle, the principle of closed identity, of a system that cannot see beyond itself. And if that principle governs this world, then a religion based on fear, punishment, and obedience may not be aligned with the highest source. This is why many Gnostic communities were persecuted, not because they denied God, but because they differentiated. They said, there is the creator of this world, and there is the true source beyond this world, and they are not the same. That distinction changes everything, because if the God who demands fear is not the supreme source, then fear loses its authority. And when fear collapses, control weakens. This is not an attack on faith. It is an invitation to examine it. Is your relationship with the divine rooted in love or in anxiety, in expansion or in compliance, in silence or in constant external approval? If the divine needs you to fear it, perhaps you are not standing before the source. Perhaps you are standing before an architecture. And the question the Gnostics left behind is not abstract. It is personal. Are you worshiping the architect or the source beyond the architect? Because that question reshapes how you pray, how you obey, how you interpret suffering, how you understand this world. And if this idea unsettles you, it may not be because it is false. It may be because it touches something you were never encouraged to question. If the Demiurge is not the supreme source, then how does the illusion sustain itself? The ancient Gnostic texts do not describe the Demiurge as a monster. They describe him as something far more unsettling, convincing. In the Apocryphon of John, the Demiurge creates rulers, the archons, forces that maintain the structure of the material world. But these archons do not merely control matter. They influence perception. They distort understanding. They reinforce identification with the external world. And this is the key. The prison is not physical. It is perceptual. The Gnostics never said the world was evil in a simplistic sense. They said it was a copy, an imitation, a reflection of higher realities, but incomplete. And imitation is more powerful than darkness, because no one willingly worships obvious evil, but many will worship something that looks divine. The Demiurge does not demand obedience through brute force. He demands it through narrative, through law, through moral structure, through identity. He creates a framework in which obedience feels righteous, where questioning feels sinful, where doubt feels dangerous, and over time, the structure becomes internalized. This is where the myth becomes psychological again, because the Demiurge is not only out there, he becomes a voice inside. A voice that says, you must earn love, you must obey to be worthy, you must fear to be safe, you must suppress doubt to remain faithful. This voice does not always sound tyrannical. Sometimes it sounds moral, sometimes it sounds holy, sometimes it sounds like your own conscience. That is the brilliance of the system. In hypostasis of the archons, the rulers create humanity in their image. But something unexpected happens. A spark from the higher realm enters the human being, a fragment of the true source. And suddenly, humanity possesses something the archons do not: inner awareness. This is why the Gnostics believed awakening was not about external salvation. It was about remembering something already present. The Demiurge can build structures, but he cannot create the divine spark. He can imitate light, but he cannot generate it. So how does he maintain control? By redirecting attention, by keeping consciousness focused outward, on rules, on rituals, on external validation, on fear of punishment, on hope of reward. As long as attention remains external, the internal spark remains dormant. And here is the uncomfortable question. If the structure of worship is built on fear, guilt, and dependency. Does that align with an infinite, self-sufficient source? Or does it align with a lesser being who needs acknowledgement to feel complete? The Demiurge in Gnostic myth is described as arrogant, but arrogance is insecurity inverted. He declares himself the only God because he does not perceive anything beyond himself. And when humans mirror that same closed perception, identifying entirely with external systems, the illusion reinforces itself. The most effective prison is the one you believe is holy. This is why the teaching was dangerous, not because it denied God, but because it separated authority from ultimate reality. If the creator of this world is not the final source, then obedience to the world is not the same as alignment with truth. That idea destabilizes entire structures. And this is where we must be careful. This is not about rejecting religion blindly. It is about examining the foundation. Is your spirituality expanding awareness or narrowing it? Is it inviting direct perception or demanding unquestioned submission? The Gnostics saw Jesus as a revealer precisely because he disrupted religious certainty. He questioned authority. He spoke in paradox. He shifted focus inward. The kingdom is within you. That statement alone undermines a purely external system of control. Because if the kingdom is within, no institution owns it. No ruler mediates it. No fear sustains it. And this is why the Demiurge, symbolically, must maintain illusion. Because if you discover that your connection to the source is direct, external control loses its psychological grip. The illusion does not survive through violence. It survives through belief. And belief becomes strongest when it is never questioned. So the real tension is not theological. It is existential. Are you relating to the divine through fear and obedience, or through awareness and recognition? Because one keeps the system intact, the other dissolves it quietly. And the Gnostic warning was never loud. It was subtle. It whispered, "Be careful who you call God, because the one who demands fear may not be the one who is infinite." It is easy to treat the Demiurge as mythology, an ancient symbol, a forgotten cosmology, a relic of early Christian mysticism. But the Gnostics did not preserve this teaching as abstract philosophy. They preserved it as a warning. Because the Demiurge is not only a cosmic figure, it is a pattern of consciousness. And that pattern did not disappear. It evolved. The ancient world expressed it through religious authority. The modern world expresses it through psychological authority. The structure is the same. Only the symbols change. The Demiurge creates a system and declares it ultimate. The system defines reality. The system defines morality. The system defines identity. And anyone who questions it is labeled dangerous. In the ancient world, questioning could get you excommunicated. Today, it can get you socially isolated. But the mechanism is identical. The system survives by convincing you that it is the only framework that exists. And this is where it becomes personal. Because most people do not pray only in temples. They pray through fear. They pray through approval seeking. They pray through constant self-judgment. They pray to invisible authorities inside their own mind. The voice that says, "You are not enough. You must do more. You must be better. You must conform. You must belong. You must be accepted." That voice does not always speak in religious language, but it functions the same way. It creates a standard. It enforces obedience. It punishes deviation. And it demands loyalty. The Gnostics believed that the true source does not operate through fear, because fear contracts awareness. The true source expands. Fear makes you smaller. Truth makes you spacious. So ask yourself something uncomfortable. When you think about God, do you feel expansion or tension? Do you feel openness or surveillance? Do you feel unconditional presence or performance anxiety? Because the difference matters. If your spirituality feels like constant evaluation, you may not be relating to the infinite. You may be relating to a structure. The Demiurge in Gnostic myth is obsessed with control. He builds a world based on hierarchy, above and below, obedience and punishment, reward and threat. That structure mirrors the human ego perfectly, because the ego also builds hierarchies. It compares, it judges, it categorizes, it seeks superiority or fears inferiority. And here is the subtle shift. The Demiurge is not only worshipped externally, he is internalized psychologically. Whenever you relate to the divine through fear of rejection, whenever you suppress doubt because you are afraid of punishment, whenever you believe that worth must be earned through performance, the structure reinforces itself. This is why the Gnostic teaching was destabilizing. It did not simply question theology, it questioned the entire foundation of authority. If the creator of this world is not the ultimate source, then the world's structures are not final. And if they are not final, you are not ultimately bound by them. But that realization is dangerous because it removes dependency. It removes fear-based control. It removes the need for intermediaries. And this is why the system cannot easily tolerate the distinction. The moment you suspect that the divine is not external authority, but direct awareness, you no longer need to perform. You no longer need to earn. You no longer need to negotiate with the heavens. You begin to relate inwardly. And that shift is silent. It does not require rebellion. It requires perception. The Gnostics did not overthrow empires. They reinterpreted reality. And reinterpretation is more threatening than revolution. Because revolution replaces rulers. Perception dissolves the need for them. So here is the deeper layer. What if the God you were taught to fear is a reflection of the egoic structure of this world? And what if the true source cannot be feared? Because it does not operate within duality. The Demiurge thrives on duality. Good versus evil. Obedient versus sinful. Chosen versus condemned. The true source, according to Gnostic understanding, transcends these divisions. It emanates. It does not compete. It radiates. It does not demand. And when you begin to sense that difference, something shifts internally. Fear loosens. Guilt weakens. External authority loses its psychological dominance. But the mind resists this because fear feels structured. Fear feels familiar. Freedom feels uncertain. And here lies the deepest discomfort. If the God you were taught to worship is not the ultimate source, then the security you built around that belief may feel unstable. And instability is frightening. But what if that instability is not collapse? What if it is clarity? The Gnostic warning was not meant to destroy faith. It was meant to refine it, to separate devotion from fear, to separate reverence from submission, to separate source from structure. Because if you confuse the two, you may spend your life praying to the architect of the prison, while the door has always been within. And that realization is where everything begins to change. There is a difference the Gnostics insisted on, a difference so subtle that most people never notice it. The difference between authority and presence. Authority demands recognition. Presence does not. Authority requires obedience. Presence requires awareness. Authority threatens consequences. Presence simply is. The Demiurge in the Apocryphon of John declares, "I am God, and there is no other beside me." It is a statement of exclusion, a statement rooted in comparison. But the voice from the higher realm does not argue with him. It simply reveals that he is mistaken. Notice something here. The false god proclaims. The true source reveals. One demands allegiance. The other invites perception. And this is not mythology anymore. This is psychological architecture, because you can feel the difference inside yourself. When you imagine a God who judges you, your body tightens. Your thoughts become cautious. You begin editing yourself internally. But when you sense pure awareness, there is no editing. There is no performance. There is no fear of being seen. There is only seeing. The Gnostics describe the true source not as a ruler, but as the pleroma, fullness, completion, not a throne, not a judge, not a hierarchy, fullness. And fullness does not need control. Control only appears where there is insecurity. And insecurity is precisely what defines the Demiurge in Gnostic myth. He believes he is the highest, but he is unaware of the higher realms. His arrogance is born from ignorance, and that ignorance is the key, because what the Gnostics were describing is not simply a cosmic being. They were describing ego consciousness. Ego always believes it is the center. Ego believes it is the final authority. Ego declares, "I am," without realizing it is a fragment. So when a system teaches you that God is jealous, wrathful, demanding worship, threatening eternal punishment, you must ask something uncomfortable. Is that divinity, or is that ego projected onto the sky? Because jealousy is not transcendence. Wrath is not infinity. Threat is not love. Those are human traits, amplified, mythologized, sanctified. The Gnostic warning was radical because it suggested something destabilizing, that humanity may have mistaken the psychological structure of control for the nature of God. And if that is true, then the liberation they spoke of is not rebellion against heaven. It is clarity about projection. This is where most seekers feel resistance, because it feels dangerous to question inherited images of God. It feels like betrayal. But what if questioning is not betrayal? What if it is refinement? The Gospel of Thomas contains a saying attributed to Jesus, "The kingdom is inside you and it is outside you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known." Notice what is missing. There is no threat, no hierarchy, no demand for obedience, only knowing. The knowing of oneself as the gateway to knowing the divine. That is not authority, that is recognition, and recognition dissolves fear. If the divine is awareness itself, then you cannot be outside of it. You cannot be rejected by it. You cannot earn it. You cannot lose it, which means control collapses, which means the false structure loses power. And this is why the Gnostic tradition was labeled heresy, not because it denied God, but because it relocated God from external ruler to direct consciousness. And when divinity is no longer external authority, the entire psychological system of fear-based control destabilizes. But here is the nuance. The Gnostics did not claim the material world is meaningless. They claimed it is incomplete. They did not say the Demiurge is pure evil. They said he is ignorant, and ignorance does not require hatred. It requires insight. So the real question is not, is the God I pray to false? The real question is, what image of God am I relating to? Is it an image built from fear Or is it an experience rooted in awareness? Is it external surveillance or internal presence? Because your nervous system knows the difference. Fear-based divinity produces anxiety. Presence-based divinity produces stillness. One contracts you, the other expands you. And expansion cannot be forced. It can only be recognized. This is the moment the video becomes personal. Because if you realize that your spiritual life has been rooted in fear, you may feel disoriented. But disorientation is not collapse. It is the moment the structure cracks. And once it cracks, you cannot unsee it. The Gnostic warning was not, reject religion. It was, do not confuse the architect with the source. Do not confuse authority with truth. Do not confuse fear with reverence. Because once you make that distinction, you begin to feel something unfamiliar. Silence. Not imposed silence, not obedience, but natural quiet. And in that quiet, there is no judge. There is no demand. There is no hierarchy. There is only awareness. And awareness does not dominate. It illuminates. That illumination is what the Gnostics called Gnosis. Not belief, not worship, not submission. Direct knowing. And once that begins, the old image of God may start to feel small, not because it was evil, but because it was incomplete. And that realization is where true spiritual maturity begins. If the God you were taught to pray to is not the ultimate source, then what is prayer? Should you stop? Should you reject everything? Should you abandon faith entirely? The Gnostics did something more subtle. They redefined relationship. Because the problem was never prayer. The problem was direction. In the Pistis Sophia, the soul cries out repeatedly, not to an external ruler demanding worship, but from within confusion, from within entanglement, from within longing. The prayer is not submission. It is recognition of disorientation. And this is the shift. In fear-based religion, prayer is negotiation. You ask, you plead, you bargain, you confess. You hope not to be punished. You hope to be rewarded. It is transactional. But in Gnostic understanding, prayer becomes remembrance. It is not about convincing God to act. It is about dissolving the illusion that you are separate. The false structure of divinity requires dependency. The true source does not. The Demiurge thrives on hierarchy. The true fullness dissolves hierarchy. So when someone kneels in fear, that reinforces authority. But when someone becomes silent in awareness, that dissolves authority. And this is where everything becomes uncomfortable, because many people do not want awareness, they want certainty. Certainty is stable. Awareness is destabilizing. Certainty gives answers. Awareness removes illusions. Certainty tells you what to believe. Awareness asks you to look, and looking is harder than believing. The Gnostics never told people to stop praying. They invited them to examine who they believed they were praying to. Is it an external judge, or the deeper intelligence within consciousness itself? If God is awareness, then prayer is not speaking upward. It is becoming still enough to perceive inward. And stillness is threatening to ego, because ego survives on noise. Noise of identity, noise of roles, noise of moral superiority, noise of spiritual hierarchy. Silence strips all of that. That is why silence feels dangerous, because without narrative, there's nothing to defend. And here is something few dare to say. Many people are not afraid of hell. They are afraid of emptiness. Hell still gives structure. Emptiness dissolves it. The Demiurge structure gives moral clarity. Obey and be safe. Disobey and be punished. It is simple, predictable. But awareness does not operate in threat-reward patterns. It operates in perception. And perception requires responsibility, not obedience. Responsibility, which means you cannot outsource your awakening. You cannot hide behind doctrine. You cannot claim moral superiority. You must look directly at yourself, and that is harder than any commandment. So, what does this mean practically? It means prayer can shift from begging to witnessing, from asking to observing, from requesting intervention to dissolving projection. The Gospel of Thomas says, "When you know yourselves, then you will be known." Notice again, no hierarchy, no demand, no cosmic surveillance, just knowing and being known, which is intimacy, not authority. The Gnostic path was not anti-spiritual, it was anti-deception. It was a refusal to confuse psychological control systems with transcendence. And this is where many viewers might feel tension, because questioning the image of God feels destabilizing. But destabilization is not destruction, it is recalibration. If your concept of God collapses under inquiry, it was never infinite. Infinity cannot collapse. It can only expand. The true source does not need defense. Only false constructs require protection. And that is a terrifying realization, because it means much of what humanity defends passionately may be projection. And projection, when worshipped long enough, becomes tradition. Tradition becomes identity. Identity becomes sacred. And sacred identity becomes untouchable. The Gnostics touched it anyway, and that is why they were erased. Because once you teach people that divinity is direct awareness, you remove the need for intermediaries, and intermediaries do not surrender power easily. But here is the most important distinction. The Gnostic warning is not saying God does not exist. It is saying the image may not be the source, and images can be dismantled. Source cannot. If prayer makes you smaller, more afraid, more dependent, more guilty, then perhaps you are relating to authority. If silence makes you clearer, less reactive, less defensive, more aware, then perhaps you are touching something closer to source. The difference is subtle, but life-changing. And once you see it, you cannot go back to unconscious worship, because now you feel the mechanism. You feel when fear is triggered. You feel when guilt is manufactured. You feel when authority is disguised as holiness. And feeling the mechanism is the beginning of freedom, not rebellion. Clarity. And clarity is far more dangerous than anger, because anger still reacts. Clarity simply sees, and what is seen clearly loses control. If the false god is not merely a being, but a structure of consciousness, then it did not disappear, it evolved. The Gnostics described archons not only as cosmic entities, but as psychological forces, patterns of influence, invisible rulers that operate through perception. And here is the unsettling truth. You do not need religion for the Demiurge structure to survive. You only need unconscious authority. The false god structure today rarely looks like a throne in the sky. It looks like systems, ideologies, movements, trends, digital platforms, even spirituality itself. Anything that demands obedience without awareness becomes a throne. Anything that rewards conformity and punishes independent perception mirrors the same structure. The Demiurge archetype is not limited to ancient cosmology. It is the mind's tendency to externalize power, to surrender discernment, to seek certainty over truth. Look closely at modern society. People still want to be told what is real, what is good, what is evil, what is acceptable, what is forbidden. The labels change, the mechanism does not. The ancient Gnostics warned that the greatest prison is the one you defend, because once identity fuses with structure, questioning feels like betrayal. And this is why the false god survives every era. It attaches to whatever people fear losing: security, belonging, morality, purpose, even awakening. Yes, even awakening can become a throne. When someone says, "I have awakened," be careful. If awakening becomes identity, it becomes hierarchy. Hierarchy becomes authority. Authority becomes structure, and structure becomes control. The false god does not mind if you are religious. It does not mind if you are atheist. It does not mind if you are spiritual. It only requires one thing: that you do not look directly. Direct seeing dissolves control. Belief sustains it. The Apocryphon of John describes the Demiurge declaring, "I am God, and there is no other beside me." Notice something subtle. The danger was not power. The danger was exclusivity. I am the only authority. Whenever that pattern appears, in religion, in politics, in culture, in personal relationships, you are witnessing the same architecture. It thrives on separation, on us versus them, on superiority, on moral certainty. Because moral certainty is addictive. It makes the ego feel righteous. But awareness makes the ego transparent. And transparency feels like death. This is why questioning deeply often triggers resistance. People think you are attacking faith, but you are not attacking faith. You are dismantling fear-based authority. And there is a difference. True faith does not fear inquiry. Only fragile constructs do. The Gnostics were not anti-divine. They were anti-deception. They were not trying to remove God. They were trying to remove false images of God, because false images produce false selves, and false selves live in fear. Fear of punishment, fear of exclusion, fear of cosmic rejection. But what if the source does not reject? What if rejection is projection? What if the God that condemns is the voice of internalized authority? And this is where the conversation becomes personal, because now it is not about theology. It is about you. When you feel guilt, is it clarity or conditioning? When you feel fear of divine judgment, is it awareness or inherited narrative? When you obey something without questioning it, is it reverence or reflex? The Demiurge structure does not survive through force. It survives through automation, unexamined patterns, inherited belief, cultural repetition. It becomes the background operating system, invisible, until you notice it. And once you notice it, something strange happens. It loses intensity, because its power was never intrinsic. It was borrowed from your attention. This is the Gnostic secret. The false god cannot exist without participation. It requires belief. It requires projection. It requires fear. Remove those, and the throne collapses. But here is the paradox. You cannot violently remove it. Rebellion is still reaction. Reaction feeds structure. You dissolve it through awareness, through observation, through refusing to surrender discernment, through quiet inner sovereignty. And sovereignty is not egoic independence. It is inner clarity. It is the capacity to sit in uncertainty without demanding authority to resolve it. The Gnostic path was radical because it demanded maturity, not obedience. Maturity, the ability to look at your own mind and ask, where have I externalized power? Where have I surrendered responsibility? Where have I confused authority with truth? That is uncomfortable. But discomfort is not destruction. It is awakening pressure. And here is something crucial. The false god structure does not disappear overnight. It reappears in subtler forms. It becomes productivity worship, status worship, spiritual identity worship, political idolization, celebrity culture, digital validation, anything that replaces direct awareness with external authority. The names change, the throne remains, unless you see it. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You begin to recognize patterns, how fear is manufactured, how outrage is engineered, how division is amplified, how identity is weaponized. And slowly, you stop kneeling, not in anger, but in clarity. You stop searching for permission. You stop outsourcing your inner compass. You stop mistaking structure for source. And that shift is profound, because now your relationship with the divine is no longer vertical. It is immediate, not above you, not outside you, not judging you, but present as awareness itself. And awareness does not demand worship. It demands honesty, radical honesty. And that is far more challenging than obedience, because obedience is easy. Awareness is relentless. It sees everything, including your own projections, including your own ego, including your own fear. And that is why most people prefer authority. Authority feels safer. Awareness feels exposed. But exposure is liberation, because what is exposed cannot secretly control you. And the Gnostic warning was never about rejecting God. It was about recognizing when the image has replaced the source. And once you see that, your entire relationship to existence changes, not through rebellion, through recognition. If the God you were taught to fear is not the true source, then prayer changes completely, because prayer to a false authority is negotiation. It is bargaining. It is pleading. It is asking for protection from the very structure that instilled fear in you. But prayer to the true source is not pleading. It is alignment. The Gnostics did not teach worship in the conventional sense. They taught remembrance. They did not instruct seekers to beg. They instructed them to awaken. And this is why Jesus' most radical statements were not about obedience. They were about perception. The kingdom is within you, not above you, not beyond you, not after death, within. If that statement is taken seriously, then something extraordinary happens. The entire architecture of spiritual hierarchy collapses. Because if the kingdom is within, there is no mediator required, no external throne, no cosmic judge, no divine bureaucracy. And that is dangerous. Dangerous to institutions, dangerous to authority, dangerous to any structure that depends on dependency, which is why Gnostic ideas were suppressed, not because they were evil, but because they were destabilizing. They removed fear from the equation, and without fear, control weakens. Now ask yourself something quietly. When you pray, are you speaking to love or to authority? Are you aligning with awareness or negotiating with power? Are you resting in presence or seeking approval? That distinction changes everything, because the false God structure feeds on hierarchy. It requires distance. It requires separation. It requires the idea that you are lesser. But the true source does not require hierarchy. It requires recognition. The Gnostics used the term Gnosis not to describe belief, but direct knowing, not conceptual knowledge, not doctrine, but immediate inner perception. And perception dissolves intermediaries. If you directly perceive light, you do not need someone to describe it. If you directly experience awareness, you do not need someone to authorize it. And this is the turning point. The moment you stop projecting divinity outward as authority, and begin recognizing it inward as awareness. The false God loses relevance, not through rebellion, through irrelevance. It simply has nothing to grip, because there is no fear to manipulate, no guilt to exploit, no hierarchy to enforce. And here is the final paradox. The God many people pray to may not be false in essence, but the image they carry might be, and that image shapes their entire experience of reality. If your image of God is judgment, you will live in subtle anxiety. If your image of God is surveillance, you will live in subtle paranoia. If your image of God is conditional love, you will live in constant self-measurement. But if the source is awareness itself, then the relationship is not vertical. It is intimate, immediate, unmediated. No throne, no distance, no cosmic courtroom, just presence. And presence does not need fear to sustain itself. Now this is where many people feel discomfort, because removing the fear-based image can feel like removing structure, like removing safety. But what if safety built on fear was never safety? What if dependence disguised itself as devotion? The Gnostic warning was not reject God, it was be careful what you call God, because whatever you call ultimate authority will shape your entire psychology. And if that authority is external and punitive, you will shrink. But if that authority is internal awareness, you will expand. The difference is enormous. One keeps you kneeling, the other invites you to stand. And this is why this topic is controversial, not because it attacks faith, but because it challenges projection. It asks a question most people never dare to ask. Is the voice I fear truly divine or inherited? Is the authority I obey conscious or conditioned? And if the answer unsettles you, that may not be doubt. It may be clarity. The ancient Gnostics believed the greatest illusion was mistaking the copy for the original, mistaking the image for the source, mistaking authority for divinity. And once you see that distinction, you can never fully unsee it. Your prayer changes, your fear changes, your identity changes, because now your relationship with the divine is not based on distance, it is based on directness. And directness removes intermediaries, which means responsibility returns to you, not as burden, but as sovereignty. And sovereignty is not egoic rebellion, it is mature awareness. It is the ability to stand without kneeling to illusion. So the next time you pray, pause before the words, before the request, before the fear. Ask yourself, am I speaking to awareness or to authority? Because that question alone can dismantle an entire lifetime of unconscious conditioning. And if something inside you shifted during this reflection, it is not because a belief changed, it is because a structure cracked. And when structure cracks, light does not enter from above, it is revealed from within. This is not an attack on God, it is a warning about images. And if you felt resistance, observe it. If you felt relief, observe that too. Because awareness itself is the beginning of Gnosis. And Gnosis was never about rebellion, it was about seeing clearly. If this reflection unsettled you, leave a comment with what shifted, not what you believe, but what you noticed. And if you are ready to continue exploring the deeper layers of illusion, authority, and awakening, subscribe to the Inner Gnosis Archive, because the most dangerous prison is the one you think is divine, and the moment you question it, you begin to stand.